Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Arvan Yunesa. I'm from K4-19 and my name is 190181331. Today, I'm going to present an article about the relationship between listening anxiety and listening comprehension of English department student in basic listening classes at Universitas Negeri Padang. The writers of this article are Suci Rahma Anissa, Aryulifa Adnan, and Leni Marlina. First, the introduction. English is essential to be mastered for the sake of communication, especially for foreign language learners. However, due to English is not their first language, foreign language learners often feel anxious even before they come to the classroom. This situation is called language anxiety. There have been many researchers who have analyzed language anxiety. The first one is Horwitz, 2001, that analyzed the relationship between language anxiety and academic achievement. Second, Han, 2013, and Karuna Karan, Rana, and Haq, 2013, that talk about the relationship between foreign language anxiety and the factors of foreign language anxiety and how to overcome the problem. The last is LLD 2016, who discussed foreign language anxiety level of student. Introduction. English is essential to be mastered for the sake of communication, especially for foreign language learners. However, due to English is not their first language, foreign language learners often feel anxious even before they come to the classroom. This situation is called language anxiety. There have been many researchers who have analyzed language anxiety. There are Horwitz that analyze the relationship between language anxiety and academic achievement, and others researchers who start doing research on this subject. In this research, one specific skill that has been analyzed and discussed was listening skill. Listening skill is considered as a really important skill to be mastered by students. This idea is supported by the fact that students spend most of their time to listen to what their teacher say in class. For example, presenting lecture, asking the student are expected, such as question and so on, as suggested by Yusnida Muslim 2017. Listening skill is more important than other skill, seeing from how often the student using it compared to other skill. Despite the fact that listening skill is very important, the students still have many factors that block them from gaining listening comprehension in FEL classes. The student tend to have many difficulties in comprehending the listening. These problems will cause them to have listening anxiety. Due to listening anxiety, the student may have poor result in listening comprehension. They will not get the best comprehension because they may feel anxious. Therefore, the researchers wants to know whether or not listening anxiety correlates with student listening comprehension. And the second slide is about the research method. First, the research design. The research aim to know the relationship between listening anxiety and listening comprehension in basic listening classes. In this research, the researchers use quantitative and data analysis. The data was measured using numbers and values. 2. Population and sample. The population of this research was all classes of basic listening class of 2019 students. There were 6 classes in total. And the sample from total 6 classes of basic listening class, the researchers randomly took 10 students from each class. The type of sampling in this research is random sampling. Every individual in the population had the same probability of being selected, and selection of one individual in no way affects selection of another individual, so the result of this research will be more reliable. Next, instrumentation questionnaire. The instrument used was Foreign Language Listening Anxiety Questionnaire FLLAQ, adopted from Marzek, Stawiorska 2013 and Horwitz 2008. The questionnaire used in this research was rating scale. Specifically, the questionnaire used in this research was rating scale. This kind of questionnaire is very useful to be used because it will another degree of sensitivity and differentiation of response. The questionnaire in this research used to state the factor and the level of listening anxiety. As you can see in the table, the level of anxiety, number 1, low level, and the score is 33 to 75 point. And number 2, middle, the score is 78 to 120. Number 3, high, the score is 121 to 165. The instrument listening comprehension test, as for the English listening test, the researcher used the result from the final semester examination of basic listening class. The data was gotten from the lecturer in charge of basic listening class. The validity used in this research is a construct validity. The item of the questionnaire had been validated by lecturers of English department at Universitas Negeri Padang who expert in this field. Depend on one thing because there may be other construction other than that. The thing that simply can be accepted by the other similar construction. For example, this research assumed that the listening anxiety of students can be known from the level of it, and the construction of it is the factor that causes the listening anxiety of college students. Reliability, the type of reliability used in this research is based on Cronchbatch alpha standardized item. It has meaning that the test questionnaire given to the correspondent must have consistency when the test or questionnaire given again. As you can see in the table, reliability range, the scale is Cronchback alpha score 0.0 to 0.20, and the level of reliability is not reliable. Second, 0.21 to 0.40, and level of reliability is low. Third, 0.41 to 0.60, and the level of reliability moderate. 0.61 to 0.80 high, 0.81 to 1.00 very high. The reliability of the FLLAQ, Forest Language Listening Anxiety Questionnaire, is stated in the table below. Reliability static, Cronchback alpha 0.923, and the subject of items is 49. The technique of data collection. First, for the questionnaire, in collecting the data, the researchers gave the questionnaire through Google from the or link that they fill with the rating scale type range from strongly disagree until strongly agree. The college student of basic listening class feel that based on the time provided by the researcher. Then, if they had finished in filling both of the questionnaire, they submitted it toward the researcher. Lastly, the researcher consulted the result at home. Second, for the English test, the researcher asked for the result of basic listening final test from the lecturer responsible for the class. The data analysis technique is to analyze the data from the questionnaire and the data from the result of basic listening final exam. The researcher used inferential analysis. In the process, the researcher used SPSS statistical package for the social science to process and analyze the data. The result and discussion, research finding, questionnaire, FLAQ. The findings that in this research are from questionnaire and the listening comprehension test. In order to find the relationship between listening anxiety and listening comprehension in basic listening classes, the researchers must clearly group the result from FLAQ and listening comprehension test first. One, the questionnaire is used to know the level of listening anxiety of the student. From the questionnaire used in this research, the results are stated in the table below. As you can see, the descriptive statistic FLLA, the subject is 60, minimum 100, maximum 210, mean 151.43, and the standard deviation is 23.645. And valid subject is 60. The mean M equal 151.43 and standard deviation SD equal 23.645. Show that the subject have experienced a high listening anxiety. The majority of the students of basic listening class are in middle to high level of anxiety, with 6 of them are in the middle level and the rest 45 of the students are in the high level of anxiety. Result and discussion, research finding. Listening comprehension test, as you can see in the table, LC subject 60, minimum 30, maximum 95, mean 56.22, standard deviation 14.791, and valid subject 60. Basic listening students have varied score in their listening comprehension test. This finding is one of the key points in searching correlation between listening anxiety and listening comprehension. This finding is one of the key points in searching correlation between listening anxiety and listening comprehension. The relationship between listening anxiety and listening comprehension in basic listening classes. To find out the relationship between listening anxiety and listening comprehension, the researchers made a correlation analysis between FLA, LLA, and listening comprehension test. As you can see in the table, FLLA and LC, FLLA Pearson correlation 1 and minus 0.245, and the significant to tailored is for the LC is 0.059, and the subject is 60, and in LC is 62, and LC Pearson correlation 0.245, and in the LC 1. significant to Thailand is 0.05659, and the subject is 60, and for the LC is 60. The significance of the correlation coefficient significant to Thailand is 0.0569. According to the theory of significant in correlation research, if the significant to Thailand is higher than 0.05, it means that the result does not have any correlation. Discussion. The study was conducted to 2019 basic listening class student of English department at Universitas Negeri Padang. From the data obtained from the questionnaire, foreign language listening anxiety questionnaire, it was found that the majority of students have a high listening anxiety range from 6 of the total 16 sample, where in middle anxiety level, the rest 54 students of the English basic listening class student in Universitas Negeri Padang. The students are in the high level of anxiety. While from the data of listening comprehension test score, the student in basic listening class have varied score with the minimum score 30 and maximum score 95. A careful analysis of the statistic that has been done with SPSS show that English foreign language listening anxiety (FLLR) has no correlation with listening comprehension in basic listening class. This means that the data two variables of the research, listening anxiety and listening comprehension, did not necessarily affect each other. In other words, when a student has a high listening anxiety, it does not mean that their listening comprehension is low. And when a student has a low listening anxiety, it does not mean that they have a good listening comprehension. However, in this research, the level of anxiety did not seem to affect or give any impact to the listening comprehension of the student. It was shown from the data that even a student has a high anxiety score 158, he or she still got a good listening comprehension score. It was also applied in the other way around. A student with a middle anxiety level score 118 got a lower score in listening comprehension. This showed the meaning of having no correlation, which were the two variables, listening anxiety and listening comprehension, did not correlate and did not give any impact or effect to each other. In this research, the majority of students have high listening range, and from the 60 sample, 6 of them are in the high listening anxiety range, and the 54 other in the middle anxiety level. While from the data listening comprehension the score, the student is in basic listening class have varied score with the minimum score 30 and maximum score 95. Analysis of the statistic that has been done with SPSS showed that the English foreign language listening anxiety (FLLR) has no correlation with listening comprehension (LC), linked listening comprehension in basic listening class. In this research, the level of anxiety did not seem to affect or give any impact to the listening comprehension of the student. Conclusion and suggestion. Based on the result obtained above, it can be concluded that the listening anxiety and listening comprehension in basic listening class of English department is in Universitas Negeri Padang were not correlate. It means that the level of anxiety of the student did not necessarily affect the listening comprehension. Additionally, the result of FLLIQ showed that 6 students, 10% were in the middle level of anxiety toward listening in English. The rest 54 of them students were in high level of anxiety, although having middle to high anxiety level, it did not mean that the listening comprehension of this student will be low. This finding showed the anxiety in English listening was a common phenomenon among the basic listening student in English department of Universitas Negeri Padang, but not students with high anxiety as poor listening comprehension. Suggestion based on the conclusion stated above, it is suggested for the next researchers to continue the research about the relationship between listening anxiety and listening comprehension using a primary instrumentation. Due to this research, use secondary instrumentation instrumentation for the listening comprehension test score, researcher did not actually obtain the test to get the listening comprehension test score. Therefore, it is suggested to continue the research using a primary instrumentation. As for the lecture, it is recommended to obtain an anxiety test to check the level of anxiety of the student in listening class. By doing this, it is expected that the lecturer will be able to reduce the listening anxiety of the student during the class with knowing the thing that trigger the student anxiety at the first place. For example, the student can get anxious when the speed of audio they are listening is too fast for them. In this case, it is suggested for the lecturer to give the student the material that that is not too far nor too slow for the student, so that they will find comfort in listening to the audio. That is the end of my presentation about this article. Thank you so much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.